Helicopter launch procedure. Now let's step through the procedure for launching a helicopter. The officer of the deck, or OOD, sets flight quarters and time for all personnel to man their stations and to complete preparations prior to flight operations occurring. Next, the LSE establishes communications with the helicopter control tower. When the flight quarters personnel arrive on station, the flight deck officer conducts a safety brief, clears all non-essential personnel, and assigns personnel to their positions in accordance with the flight quarters watch bill. After the safety brief is finished, the FDO ensures the flight deck nets are lowered and supervises a complete FOD walkdown of the flight deck and adjacent topside areas. On the boat deck, the boat crew and boat deck personnel establish communication with the bridge and assign personnel to their positions in accordance with the flight quarters watch bill. The flight deck officer verifies the operation of the wave-off lights, crash alarm, 5MC, deck status lights, stabilized glide slope indicator, or SGSI, horizon reference system, or HRS, obstruction lights, white lineup lights, red drop lights, hangar face dustpan lights, and flight deck floodlights. Once personnel on the flight deck are assigned, safety equipment is donned and functioning, and the safety brief and FOD walkdown are conducted. The FDO will direct the LSE to report manned and ready to the tower. When signaled by the LSE, the pilot starts the aircraft engines. After verifying that the area is clear and upon approval from the LSO, the LSE signals the pilot to engage rotors once amber deck is set and the pilot is ready. When requested by the pilot, the LSE signals for tie-down removal. The LSE indicates to the pilot that the chalk and chain personnel are approaching the aircraft by showing the hold signal and pointing at the personnel as they approach the aircraft. When the chalk and chain personnel are in position, the LSE gives the signal to remove the tie-down chains and then signals to remove the chalks. Once the chalks and chains have been removed, the chalk and chain personnel hold the equipment and stand next to the LSE so the pilot can see that all of the chalks and chains have been removed. The LSE points to the chalks and tie-downs and indicates by fingers the number of tie-downs removed, followed by the thumbs-up signal. Once complete, the chalk and chain personnel pick up the equipment and safely stage it in a readily accessible area on the flight deck for immediate use. When all pre-launch checks are complete and the pilot is ready for launch, the pilot gives the LSE a thumbs-up signal and requests permission to launch from the HCO. The HCO notifies the bridge that the helicopter is ready for launch and requests green deck. Once green deck has been granted, the flight deck status light will change from red to green. The LSE rechecks that the aircraft is clear of equipment and personnel and checks to ensure that any airborne aircraft are clear of the launch area. Once the checks are complete, the LSE gives the liftoff signal to the aircraft. Once the helicopter is at the desired altitude, the LSE gives the hover signal. While the helicopter is hovering, the LSE checks to make sure that the takeoff area is clear for a final time and gives the takeoff signal to the pilot. After the helicopter is safely away, the HCA requests permission from the bridge to set red deck. Once red deck has been granted, the flight deck status light will change from green to red. Once the helicopter sends the ops normal report, the ship secures from flight quarters.